back to my channel. My name is Laura. It's Wednesday. I'm doing Top 5 Wednesday, and I came up with a new topic. I was thinking about authors that I read before Booktube. So this is authors that I read in my 20s and 30s. I used to commute from Staten Island, New York to Manhattan, New York, and I used to take the train. And I would take the train, the subway, and then I would take the ferry boat across. And yeah, so I had a lot of free time at that time. This is when I was in my 20s. So I read a lot. However, my memory is very, very bad. And I actually was dating my husband, was with my husband at that time, and I even asked him, do you remember the books that I read on the train while I was going? Because I don't really remember, and he did come up with a few. So I have 5 authors that I have read, and I have read many books, and some I've only read 1 or 2 books from. So the very first book, this is a funny story because this is the first movie I took my husband to see, and I read the book, and then I took him to the movie, and it was the worst movie he ever saw in his life, and he still to this day teases me about this movie. So so the first book, the first author I'm going to talk about is V.C. Andrews. She was my favorite author since high school. I read Flowers in the Attic, and that's the first movie that I brought my husband to see, and he still teases me about that movie. Anyway, so I read The Flowers in the Attic and the whole series. Then I went on to the next series, which is the Castell series, and I read that. Then I went on to the Cutler series, and I read that one. And then I went on to the Landry series, and I read that one. And then I stopped because all the books were the same type of plot twist. Very mansion people with very dark pasts and just very cruelty to children and stuff like that. So, but to this day, she is still my top author because I've read many of her books. She has 146 books out. I stopped reading basically when she passed away, the author, and her family started retelling her stories from like just their family doing retelling of her stories. So yeah, so I read a lot of her books. So I said to my husband, okay, I know Flowers in the Attic. He always makes fun of me, that one. I said, what other author or a movie have we watched? Because I watch a lot of movies. My husband's a movie. He doesn't read any books, but he's a very movie person. So he said, John Grisham. Okay, John Grisham. I read, and now I remember reading these. I read The Firm, I read Time to Kill, I read The Client, I read Pelican Brief, and I read The Chamber. And that was all before Booktube. So recently I read Skipping Christmas, and that was my favorite Christmas book. And then I watched the movie. They changed the name. The movie is called Christmas with the Crumps. It's really, really good. I have this thing about Christmas. I get very grumpy. I am a Scrooge. I am the Grinch. But I like those type of movies. So yeah, so that was my favorite movie. And another book that I read recently in my YouTube channel time, I read Gray Mountain. So I've read a lot of his books, and he has 221 books out. So yeah, I still need to read more of his books, but at that time I was working in a law firm, and all those lawyer type books is what I like to read. So yeah, I haven't read a lawyer book in a while, but during my 20s I was reading lawyer books. Okay, on to another author that my husband said that I watched. Well, we watched the movie and I did read the book, and the author's name is Anne Rice. and I read Interview with a Vampire. I had to ask my husband, what was the name of that book? What was the name of that movie with Tom Cruise in it? Yeah. So I did read the book, and then I watched the movie with my husband. So yeah, I don't think I've read any more Anne Rice books, but I was into vampires at that time, and of course I had to read Twilight and all that. So yeah, so I had vampires in my past. So anyway, okay, so two other authors that I read in the past. Now, this author, I read a couple of her books, but I can't remember which ones I read. She has 215 books out, and her name is Danielle Steele. And I read a lot of her books. I just don't remember the title. The only title that I do remember is Kaleidoscope. I remember reading Kaleidoscope because I remember watching Lifetime movies, and I watched the movie Kaleidoscope after I read the book. But I don't remember which other ones. I might have read Accident and Vanished, or I just don't remember. I would have to read them again, so it's been a while. So yeah, very hard, but I know I've read Danielle Steele in the past. Okay, the last author that I read, and this one I am definitely going to be reading again because I bought the book recently because I like to read it again. This author is one of my aunt's favorite authors, and she recommended me when she knew that I was reading to the city. She said, you have to pick up this book. And the author's name is LaVille Spencer. I don't know if I said her name correctly. She has 63 books out. I know that I read Separate Beds, and that's the one my aunt told me to read. So yeah, I definitely want to read it again. It's about a marriage where the husband sleeps in another room. Yeah, it was very good, and I really enjoyed it, and I remember my aunt telling me to read that one. I don't know if I read any other ones. I think I read something Blessing, but I don't remember. I have such a bad memory. I wish I had a journal back then so I would know all the books that I read in the past. So yeah, anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Yeah, this was hard and very hard memory. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I will see you in another video. Bye.